again. We'll reconvene the public session. Colin, do you want to report part of it out?
Yes,
for
Mr.
closed
Mayor.
session?
The council went and heard item number 1, real property negotiation. There was no reportable action, direction given to negotiators. Council also heard item number 2, anticipated litigation. There was no reportable action on that matter. And the last item, conference with labor negotiator, was continued until after the meeting.
Thank you. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Ted Hoffman, and then the invocation by Mary Ann Cameron, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Please stand and join me, and I appreciate all the high school students who are here, so I want to hear it loud and clear from you out here as I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening.
Our Father in heaven, we are so grateful to be at this meeting to help our beautiful city to be organized, to make good decisions. We ask thee to please be with our mayor and our council members, that they will be inspired to make the best choices for us and for our city. We ask you to please bless our country that is struggling right now. Please bless those who are in charge and making decisions for us also, that they will be able to make the good decisions, that we can be united once more, and our country can grow and be better. We ask you to please bless our armed forces. Bless them, that they will be protected, be able to do their jobs, and be able to come home safely to their families. We ask you to please have thy spirit in this meeting tonight, that a lot will be accomplished, that the decisions made will be pleasing before thee. We are grateful for all of our blessings, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mary Ann. I'll call upon Mayor Pro Tem Grummer to start council communications. This is reports on regional boards.
Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you.
On October 20th, I attended the Northwest Mosquito and Vector Control District Board of Trustees meeting, and just want to remind everyone you can find them on social media or their website. If you have any issues with mosquitoes or pests, part of our property taxes pays for this service. The district will come out and assess your property and provide whatever services are needed. They also have some great educational things as well, so if you're not following them, I would encourage you to do so.
I'm not going to refer to any of that. We received notification today from the keeper of the National Register that she's going to punt. She wants us to send our recommendation back to the State Historic Preservation Officer. We believe with some sort of corrections. I spoke with the former chair of the Historic Resources Commission for the State of California, who said it's pretty obvious she's facing a lot of political pressure from the Navy, but she can't disallow what we've said, so she's caught. And because if she just disallowed it and went totally with the Navy, she'd kind of look foolish, and she has a reputation. So it's a very interesting dilemma. So Bill Wilkman is going to be talking to Paul DeZignan, who is the West Coast representative, to find out exactly what she means. But she made it very clear that she's making no determination at this time. So in essence, with the Navy, we're still in limbo with them, and we have a very ticked off SHPO. And so the Navy probably would be in their best interest to go ahead and just put it on the National Register, because they can do whatever they want. But right now they have to go through SHPO. And SHPO, if you've been looking at some of the documentation, Julianne Polanco, she has been very difficult for them to get anything done. And so basically it's been thrown right back in her court. So I'm not sure what we're going to do. City manager has some pretty good ideas, and I guess we'll just go from here. But basically, they want us to address, I guess officially, the Navy's objections to our nomination, and we've already done that. So that's kind of where we're at. And
Thank you, Kevin.
Lori will send something out more detailed.
Thank you.
Can I do it? All right. Normally you say something. The Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting, and as you well know, the 91, 71, there are nighttime closures in there. Please be cognizant of those as they are doing the transition and the flyover for the freeway. Then the Hamner Bridge, there's a flag. People out there, again, be cognizant of the traffic, especially during the day. If you travel along the 15, heading southbound towards Marion and Temecula this week, be cognizant in this weekend. Road closures going up there as they continue. They're expanding that, and they got a grant from the state and the feds, some money from the feds, to fix out Murrieta, Temecula. If you've ever driven down there, it's a pain. They're trying to do a whole new program that was developed in Australia for merging that traffic in on a better way. I mean, this will be the first places in the United States are going to try this. Hopefully it'll work. I mean, it works good on paper. We'll see what happens. And then RTA, busy looking now. We just approved of their budget or approved all their historical budget. They got a good report card. They're paying attention to where the money is being spent. And one thing, if you ride the bus and you need to go vote, you get a free ride. Just tell the bus driver you're going to go vote, and it's free. That's also on the RTA's Dial-A-Ride and any other transport unit they have. One thing I talked about in LAFCO, that's the longest LAFCO meeting I was at, 3.5 hours. And this comes back to what we say and the records we keep in LAFCO, and for those, especially city staff, and for you aspiring city employees or government employees, keep your ducks in a row. Because what has happened at that one was the city of Coachella, city of Indio, saying, no, this was my property, no, this is my property, this was going to be mine, this is my sphere of influence, and all those things going through. What a nightmare, because all of them had documentation saying, hey, no, it was mine, this was all the previous people before that. This goes back to keeping everything written down and getting it updated and reaffirmed. And so for 3.5 hours, and we still didn't figure out what it'll still continue. But I mean, it just amazes me that both sides actually had good arguments. So it's going to end up in court. So Collins and his people will make money somewhere along the line. The attorneys will take care of it. But that's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Had no regional meetings. I do have CDA Board of Directors meeting tomorrow. But I did want to mention, along with the city manager, attended a roundtable discussion with the ranking member of the House of Natural Resources, Congressman Calvert, and a room full of Riverside County and city officials to discuss permit challenges to infrastructure development. And everybody kind of talked about, their difficulty on the 15 freeway and just moving through with, I don't know if I'm going to get it quite right, Lori, but with California CEQA, that it's almost correct? Yeah, absolutely. Is stronger than the federal government, and people look to the federal government for relief so they don't have to use California's CEQA. The Westerman, he's the ranking member from Arkansas, decent guy, real down to earth. And we learned that Arkansas has 3.2 million people, where Inland Empire and Riverside County have over 5 million. And so it was a really, really good meeting. So just thought I'd share that with you. That's all I have.
One of the things on CEQA, the reason that extra lane on the 15th by Cahalco was done less than a mile was so that we did not have to do a CEQA report, because they kept it under a mile. The hardest part in California in any of that stuff is AQMD.
Right.
The air quality, they're worse than CEQA. So
Bob McGee from City of Lake Elsinore brought all of that up. And so it was a good discussion. A lot learned. Okay. So let's move on to consent calendar. Are there any items that need to be pulled? Dana, do we have any public comments?
I have no public comment cards for this item.
Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to approve.
second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Call upon the city clerk for public comments.
I have no public speaker cards for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move into discussion items. I'm excited about this one. This is a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award. Good evening, Lisette.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here to acknowledge that the award that the City of Norco has earned, and as well as the Finance Department. The Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada has awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the year ended June 30, 2021. This report has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure and clearly communicates its financial story and motivate its potential users to read the report. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by government and its management. With that, I would also like to thank our finance department, some of which are here. You know, we're sort of the behind the scenes at the city, so I also want to give thanks to all the departments that help us, you know, with our tedious requests, I would say, and helping us to meet all our deadlines for our audits and our financial reports. So, thank you.
Do you want to introduce your staff that's here, please?
So,
Come on.
so we have Julie Hauser. Come on over here. This is Julie Hauser. She's our go ahead.
Administrative analyst.
Noemi Luna.
I am the customer service supervisor.
And Sydney Bowling.
And I'm an account clerk.
Part of our staff.
And Julie's who you call when you have problems with waste management. Does council have any questions of staff? Ed?
Okay. Lizette, how many years have we got this now?
So we were actually discussing that earlier. We have an award from 1993 or 98, and then 2003 to current. So I don't know before that if there were other ones, but since 2003, it's been consecutive.
So since 2003, you guys have been, this city and your staff, I know, has it got award of excellence, correct?
Yes.
That's amazing, and that's one track record that we'll keep breaking. All right, that's amazing that's good, and that's for the public to understand. These are audits, and they're tough because we just did a review of the Riverside Transit audit, and it was tough. So when you do that, you're making the books balance, and we appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dana, public comment?
I have no public comment cards.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to council discussion and action, and our recommendation is to acknowledge the award earned by the city of Norco and the finance staff. Great job, Lisette, and your team.
Lisette, I have a question. I have a question. How many cities get this? That's really the most important question.
I don't know the number, but it's not, what would you say? It's not a requirement. It's,
Right. But not a lot of cities get it.
No, because to prepare the ACFR is a higher level of financial reporting and disclosure. It's not, unless you have certain circumstances, it's not required. So, but many cities like ours take pride in providing that annual report. It's a great piece of information for bond disclosure, for financial transparency. So it's a lot of work, but it's worthwhile.
And it's a tool for residents to see everything, correct?
yes.
That's the whole point. Anyway, congratulations.
Thank you, Lisette. I'll make a motion to forward the recommendation.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, item 5B. Lori.
Thank you, Mayor. Dana, can you get that presentation going? This item before you tonight is a discussion item for you with regard to the Riverside Transmission Reliability Project, or the RTRP. So I wanted to bring this matter before you for a discussion and an update about this project that's been around for quite a while. But the city of Riverside is contemplating a new approach to the project, and it does have some impacts on the city of Norco. So bringing this forward for a discussion, and my first try with the clicker. So, oh, look at that. Okay. So a little history, and I have these slides. All the slides you're going to see tonight, with a few exceptions I'll note, are directly from the city of Riverside and their recent presentation to their budget committee on October 20th. So this is one of the slides from that presentation, recapping the long history of this project. Essentially what Riverside is aiming to do is to provide a second point of connectivity to the state's power grid. So they have one place in eastern Riverside where they connect currently. For obvious reasons of redundancy, they would like to establish another place. You can kind of see on the yellow right here, this is existing Edison transmission line. So their goal is to connect from this sort of SCE setup, whatever this shape is, stop sign type shape here, and provide connectivity up here to the grid. So this has been, as you can see, since 2004 that the city of Riverside has been working on this project. They actually got very close to beginning the project earlier in the year, and then kind of hit the pause button to reevaluate whether or not they wanted to consider undergrounding along, and I'll reference this other side over here so you can see, undergrounding this segment that you see in the blue, the light blue, from this point to the point of connectivity. So they hit the pause button and started to come back and do some talking. So again, these are slides straight from Riverside. So these are, I just cut them and put them in here. So one of the issues obviously we're looking at is the wildfire situation. As the slide notes that the number of fires caused by utility line failure is relatively modest, but it accounts for a disproportionate amount of acreage burned and considerable costs and unfortunately some loss of life, and they've got some information here. So, you know, the idea of overhead utilities, the state is moving away from encouraging the use of overheads and looking to underground where possible. this is another thing that talked about. There's the CPUC, the State Public Utilities Commission, designates some high fire threat districts, and that's what you're seeing here in the orange. The orange is the high fire threat district. You can see their planned transmission line overhead is bumping up right against that high fire threat district. So again, that's one of the reasons prompting them to revisit this line and consider going underground. They also looked at this with sort of a social justice lens. The red you're seeing are what are called disadvantaged communities, or a DAC. That's a federal designation having to do with income and other statistics. And so the red is the DAC in Riverside and some of the adjoining areas. And so again, the purple power line you're seeing going through the DAC, and you're seeing here essentially they've said low-income communities are disproportionately impacted by this type of development. Additional fire risk, lowers property values, detracts from the aesthetics of the environment, which we would agree with. So as I mentioned, the industry trend, again, this is straight from Riverside slides. Both PG&E and other utility providers really looking in general to go underground instead of going overhead for all the reasons that we just discussed. Most close to us, you can all recall the situation in Chino Hills, where the 500 kVH lines were going to be going through Chino Hills. Actually started that construction and then got stopped, ultimately got undergrounded. And then here on the left, you can see PG&E following up on some of those significant Northern California fires is looking to underground more than 10,000 miles of line. So we can see the trend is definitely to move underground. So at the Budget Committee meeting, the City of Riverside is looking to do what they've called here a hybrid alternative. So this is all the detail we've received at this point, but I will try to decipher. So the purple, again, is the line coming in here and then ultimately going underground through Eastvale JV up here to the Edison connected. The dashed purple line would be underground. The light blue is the Riverside border, essentially. So they're coming along here. And right here, we see this is the Santa Ana River, and it becomes a solid purple. So you can see what they're looking to do is to do 3.5 miles of this total 5 miles would be underground, the dash line. The solid purple would be overhead. So essentially what you're seeing here is in this corner here adjacent to and in Norco, we'd be coming up overhead onto a transmission tower, going across the river overhead, and then going back down underground on the other side of the river. So we've received this information. We became aware of this hybrid alternative that we're looking into and started to try to gather some information about Norco impacts. So I have requested from City of Riverside any visualizations they may have, dimensions in the heights of the tower structures, and a specific with regard to the, that map we just saw on the previous slide, asking for this on an aerial in some kind of detail so we can analyze the impacts on our neighborhoods. The city staff has been responsive at Riverside, but let us know that at this stage they don't have any of that information available to share with us. So we are doing our best, we're making our best reasonable estimates as to what we know right now about those impacts. So this aerial you'll see here is based on the 2013 EIR, and in these green dots, see this green dot? That is a tower. So you can see the towers right here in Norco. This is our border right here. Right here in Norco, really adjacent to those same Riverside neighborhoods, but also these neighborhoods in Norco. Keep in mind, these are very large, tall towers. So we don't know the exact dimensions, but they're somewhere around 130 feet tall, maybe 150 feet tall. These are not power poles like in front of your house. These are transmission towers. So it would go over the river here to another very high transmission tower here. So again, this is from the 2013 EIR. I don't know if these are where the power poles would, or the towers would be right now, but this is our best estimate. So how tall is it, right? And so this is another thing we're looking to work with Riverside and get these visualizations so we can see. These screenshots are from the 2018 EIR scoping meeting that was held here nearby. This is actually in Eastvale. And again, this isn't going to be overhead in Eastvale. It'll be underground. But when they were looking at overhead, this is what it would look like. So this is looking, like I said, and then here's the same picture with the tower. So that gives you an idea of the scale and the scope of how far away these towers could be seen. Another visualization that was done, again, 2018, April, during this scoping meeting. This is actually from Norco. As you can see, these labels, again, this is straight from their website. from our end, looking across the river to the north, and then this is that same view with the tower on the other side of the river. And what we can't see, what would be kind of over here somewhere, right, would be the tower on the south side of the river. You're not seeing that in the visualization, but you can see how the lines are going up, and you can begin to imagine the aesthetic impacts alone on our community. So what are Riverside's next steps? Where does this stand? So this will be considered at the Riverside City Council meeting on November 15th, is our understanding. And the subcommittee is presenting this hybrid alternative as the option. So these next steps are right out of that same presentation, where they're looking to create a kind of a task force and move ahead, build their coalition, work with Edison, because this project would be in partnership with Edison. They work with the CAISO, which is the California system operator essentially for the grid, and then the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to get the various approvals they would need to get to modify their project they already had in place, to do a schedule. They need to identify some funding sources, because to go underground for what they propose is an additional cost, obviously. And then they'll be going through the CEQA process, ultimately an environmental impact report. And then it ends with a CPCN petition of modification to the Public Utilities Commission. So quite a few steps here yet to come with Riverside, but so what we would be anticipating is coming up at a future council meeting, they'll be deciding if they want to go down this road. So what's next for Norco? So at this stage, I have reached out and talked to the city manager of Riverside and been working with their staff to get the information they have available, which at this point is what's available I've shared with you tonight. It's in the it's in the PowerPoints. We don't have any further detailed information. I know Mayor Newton has also reached out to Mayor Lock Dawson to request a meeting, and we do have something coming up to talk with them and understand more fully the project and to get some more information. Specifically, we are really looking to understand exactly where these structures would go, how they would impact Norco from all these same perspectives from which they've considered the impacts on Riverside. And then we would hope and we would craft a more thorough examination of all those aesthetic, environmental, fire safety impacts of not fully undergrounding the entire route. We understand there are challenges with undergrounding, going under the Santa Ana River, but we are aware there are other utilities under the river. I'm certain there are challenges there, but again, there are a lot of benefits for fully undergrounding. So that is where we stand today. So I just want to, again, bring this to the council for questions and discussions and bring it to the community's mind so they're aware that we are on top of this issue. We are looking into this issue. We want to partner with our neighbor and work together on a collaborative solution that meets their needs for transmission reliability, but also doesn't have adverse impacts on Norco and for the generations of people that are going to be recreating along that Santa River, hiking, riding horses. You'll never get that view shed back, right? It'll never come back. So what can we do to protect that amazing view? So that's what I have today, Mayor.
Thank you, Lori. Good report. Council questions of staff? Ted?
No, like I said, I want more information. We've been dealing with this for a long time, and we need to continue our opposition to above ground and continue putting them underground. It can be done.
Robin? Catherine?
When was the last letter that we sent?
You know what? I'm not sure. It would have predated me. I don't know if Dana, do you recall?
I want to say it was, I believe, March or April. It was
Okay.
early.
I know it was earlier this year. Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
because they were at, that's the point at which they were kind of deciding to move
And they decided to
forward.
pause.
And then they paused to evaluate the undergrounding. Again, which we celebrate that. That's a great move. We're just saying, let's underground the entire length, not exempt that one slice.
Okay. That's my only question. Thank you.
Yeah, Kevin and I have been writing letters, I don't know for how long. Kevin?
Yeah, we sent a letter. Councilwoman Cervantes at Riverside, she's the one that turned them around. She's my hero. And of course, Steve, who's the La Sierra council person. I see Randy back there. We took a bunch of Norconians and stormed the Riverside meeting, and we had a lot of fun, kind of. But had Cervantes not stood up, they would have moved forward. Couple of the things just to point out is that I notice on the map they don't have the Norco area for the high fire area, And I want to remind everybody that had it not been for CAL FIRE and the joint effort of Corona, all these fire stations, Norco came very close twice in the last 6 years, burning to the ground. We had massive fires. Truthfully, Randy, you almost lost your house. I have no idea how CAL FIRE stopped that. When I drove it afterwards, I mean, it was literally right at the property line. So CAL FIRE, those are my big heroes. And I know Corona and a lot of the firefighters were there and really appreciate it. I look forward to getting more information. I want to know if we can attend that meeting. There's never been a fire assessment of this project. It's one of the things for 12 years we've been asking for. I've attended tons of meetings, and my understanding is CAL FIRE has written a letter and at the state level, and unless the CPUC asks for it, it doesn't get released. It's screwy. But if you look in the EIR, there's no fire danger. Europa Valley, the reason that they went underground is a single developer spent over $1 million to fight it. And that's why it went underground, because had they put it above ground, he would have lost valuable land. And I like what you said about the view shed, never get it back. And Lori, I want to applaud you. Thank you so much for picking this up and doing what you're doing. I really appreciate it a lot. It's been 12 years and we've all been involved. And you have now taken it to the next degree, and the calls you're making and things like that. When you meet the residents, and you will over there, they're really upset. Greg and I met with them a few months back, and I think they're really going to appreciate your efforts. No matter what happens, you get an A for effort, so thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Kevin. Dana, do we have any public comment?
I have one speaker card, Jeff Cahan.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
Good, thank you, Mr. Mayor. How are you? As you know, we've talked about this for a long time. I appreciate the report. I'm glad that the residents can hear an updated understanding of where we are with the project. As we've heard from you many times from the Chino de Salter, right, there's ways to tunnel under the river. It's not an impossible feat. The fact that they've proposed undergrounding most of it, then absolutely, why not just do that last little part of the river? And you've already answered most of those objections, and you know, the fire danger obviously is important. So without going on about it, I'm just here to simply say I absolutely recommend and urge you to do whatever the city can within the city's powers to absolutely fight this and push for the undergrounding of the entire thing. And I know the entire community would be greatly appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
I have no further speaker cards, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Dana. Okay, so bring this back for council. Any further discussion and action?
I make a recommendation that we let the city manager proceed as she has said she would like to, and she apparently has some connections there, and perhaps also authorize her to bring in the authorities she may have to, anybody who's familiar with the legal part of high transmission lines, and move forward in that direction. What do you?
Second.
I'd like to amend the motion to add, can we also communicate to our residents what's happening? Let people know through top stories if they'd like to write in to the meeting or attend the meeting, as well as see if there's interest on behalf of my colleagues to send a letter again from the council on the record looking at bringing up the issues that City Manager Sassoon has brought up in terms of things that we would like the council in Riverside to consider as good neighbors. And protecting the open space, the fire risk, endangered species, you know, the impact on the disadvantaged communities that still surround that area and so forth.
You know, also just to include with that, it would also be to contact the supervisors who for 2 decades were opposed to the project and suddenly flipped. maybe make them aware of what's going on and give them the opportunity to reconsider it. And then part of that also too is to contact Congressman Calvert's office and the various Assembly and Senate members in the state of California.
You don't want that all as a motion. Okay.
Well, I just
Let's
wanted to make sure
simplify
that
this
the
here,
public
okay?
actually understood the extent of what the city manager has told us that she thought would be a good idea. And so I wanted to make sure that the public knows that the city manager has really taken the bull by the horns.
Dana?
Okay. I would just add one more comment. Just we're going to do everything we can, right? To everything in our power as the council and the city manager to get them undergrounded. So anything that we legally and feasibly are able to do, we're going to do that. So we're going to keep working on this as long as we have to. Second.
No, I had a second.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Okay. Okay. Please vote. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, we're going to move into public hearings. Item 6A, first reading, ordinance 1090, or I'm sorry, 1089, City of Norco. Alma.
Good evening, Mr.
Hi.
Mayor, members of the City Council. This is agenda item 6A, and it's ordinance 1080 for the adoption of the 2022 California Building Code Standards. Staff recommendation is for approval, and we do have Pete Goodrich from our Wildan Consulting team that is going to be doing a presentation, and we'll be able to answer any questions with respect to the building code update. And with that, I will pass it over to Pete.
Good evening.
Good evening, good evening. My name is Pete Goodrich. I'm with Wildan Engineering. We provide support services to you all for building services and function as your building official currently. And good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. There we go. Now I have my presentation. We can move forward. We're here tonight to just talk about the requirement of the local code adoption for basically the state standards. My next slide, please. There we go. So every 3 years, the state of California publishes a new set of building codes. California Building Code Standards, or Title 24, governs construction of all buildings in the state of California. Every city in California is mandated to adopt the state codes, and each city may amend the city codes to become more stringent, but not less stringent to address local conditions. So kind of here's a little pictorial. We start with an international set of codes that's adopted. Then California takes it and puts a bunch of amendments, gives us the California version. Then the city of Norco gets it. We get to make amendments to that and make it so that we have our own set, and we pull those into the municipal code under Title 15. So basically, this time through with the codes, there's not a bunch of things that make a big significant difference to what's going to happen here in Norco. So we really don't have any major building code requirements, any new code amendments, and we're only updating the existing. And the reason that we update the existing is the way the code gets laid out. Sometimes there's changes in the way that things are laid in the code books. Sometimes there's things where the code standards come up, and so the amendments that we might have locally don't need to be in place anymore. But at the end of the day in Norco, really we didn't take any of the amendments away, nor did we add any amendments to the building codes here. So really the only changes are just in numbering and things like that. Any of the previous amendments that you had on file from things that happened previously, we just rolled all of those forward so that they just log into the new code book. So basically, in bringing this forward so that we have kind of an implementation plan, what we do is any of the handouts and information, we have some really good handouts here in Norco for the community. All of those, we have to go through all of those and then make sure that they address anything that might change and reference in the new code section, which again, really probably on most of them, it's going to be a matter of changing the date on the bottom of them to which code book that they're referring to. We update the design and construction checklist, so all of the plan review that we do, all of the things that we do behind the scenes to get the projects ready, we're referencing now the new codes. We update any of this information that might be on the city's website. We do public outreach, and really what public outreach is we're putting information out on the counter, letting the construction people know, the development community know what's going on. And then in January 1st of 2023 is when this all really goes into effect. That's when the state mandates it over to us. But by us having the ordinance in place, we don't lose any of the benefits of things that the city locally wants, because when the state mandates it across to us, if we don't adopt something different, we end up losing all of our amendments and get just what the state gets us. So that's why we want to go through this process and get that done. So from staff level, we just recommend that you approve this as first reading. It does have to go back for a consent calendar item the next time through, but we're recommending approval of the, let's see what it's, 1089, I think is what we have.
Yes.
There we go. I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Yes, Robin?
During your presentation, you kept saying we. So when we talk about that we would update the city website and we would conduct public outreach, is that you will, Dan, or is that city staff?
Well, it's going to be more Lacey than anybody,
Okay,
but we're going to be helping her out getting it
so
done.
she will get, staff will get support from Wildan for these checklist items?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a lot of we stuff. I wanted to make sure there was support there for that work.
Part of the we.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Couple questions. Clarification on page 5. This is 7-133 on fees. Another amended subsection invoicing the cost of construction at 2%. Is that status quo? Is that going up? Is it going down?
Status quo.
Okay. And then also for same number but H, the 1.95, that's status quo also on fees?
Yes.
And then just kind of generally, because I know this is just not much meat here, it's just amendments. Changes to Title 24 and energy have the largest cost impacts to our residents, our developers. I couldn't tell from this, is they're going to be more stringent again on Title 24 and energy?
Absolutely, yes. And I mean, without a doubt, the state's push to try and eliminate the pressure on the grid. The thing that's nice about a lot of the newer, you have the Cal Green, all this environmental requirements that come in, that has big effects. But really, the energy requirements now have kind of come to what I consider a turning point, where by adding solar, by adding some of the things, the cost of that actually it now is turning around to where it's actually a cost savings to the residents. Yeah, it adds cost to the construction up front, but it actually doesn't have an end user cost as much as it used to, because solar used to be so tremendously expensive, and that's probably one of the bigger things that we're pushing into is more requirement for solar on houses. So, yeah.
See, I'll disagree with you on that. And that's one of my concerns, is that what we see with city projects, that when the Title 24 requirements just make it so excessive for the cost of construction, and it filters down to the residents, and specifically like what you mentioned on solar, that you really don't see the cost savings, because now Edison has figured they're not making enough money, so your rebates aren't as great. And so we're going to see this. I guess that's part of my concern. I know we have no say in the matter, but it's these costs affect or these amendments change the cost of construction, which, how do you have affordable housing with those requirements?
Yeah, no, and I respect,
Yeah.
I understand, and I understand your plight with that, and I do feel that we all do have a place in all of that, because that's why we vote the way we vote. That's the way we make the decisions that we make, and quite honestly, as it relates to some of these goals and objectives that the state has to get done, that's why we have to be in on that fold. We here, you know, when I'm bringing this presentation forward, I don't have any more say so in that part. The only thing I can say is what is the city of Norco. Some of the cities actually go for REACH codes, which raise those energy standards even higher. In city of Norco, we're not doing that. We're staying.
That's what I want to make sure of. We're staying with this.
California is mandating us to do. We're not going any higher level than that.
Great. Okay. Catherine, questions? Kevin? Okay.
Thank you.
You may not be done yet, but I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing.
I have no speaker cards on this item, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll close the public hearing, bring it back for council discussion and action. If not, I'll...
Mr. Mayor, and I was looking through here, and I was going to ask him, but it really does make a difference. When we go through, and these are going to go into effect January then? January 1st, yes. Okay, so any projects that are done prior to this won't be affected. Is that true, Alma? If the plans are submitted prior to January 1st, they don't even have to start construction, but if the plans are submitted prior, so they just put in their application before January 1st. And the other reason I say, because there's a large section on EV parking lots and facilities and things like that. So, okay, I just all right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, hearing nothing else, I'll make a recommendation to approve the introduction and the first reading of Ordinance 1089, adopting the 2022 California Building Standard Codes. Colin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco, California, adopting the 2022 California Building Standard Codes to amend Norco Municipal Code Title 15, Buildings and Construction, Chapters 15.01, Administrative Provisions, 15.02, Building Code, 15.03, Electrical Code, 15.04, Mechanical Code, 15.05, Plumbing Code, 15.06, Housing Code, 15.07, Residential Code, 15.08, Green Building Code, 1510, Existing Building Code, 1513, Administrative Code, and 1514 Energy Code, Code Amendment 2022-06.
Thank you.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, I'm going to move into City Council and staff communications. City Clerk.
Just a reminder to everybody that Tuesday, November 8th is Election Day, and City Hall will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'll be collecting ballots. The ballot box will be there. It'll be a drop-off center only, so I look forward to seeing you stop by and say hello and drop off your ballots. Thank you to all those that have turned in their ballots early. The Register of Voters does appreciate that. They've been picking them up, and we've had over 600 ballots dropped off at City Hall so far. So thank you all for your participation, and make sure you get out and vote.
Thank you, Dana. Any other staff comments? Any good news? Okay. Colin? City Manager? Ted?
Sam, in December, we're looking for some good projects from flood control, okay? All right? Good projects. Okay, thank you.
Robin? Catherine?
Just want to remind everyone, Friday's the city's first Dia de los Muertos event at Community Center Park. So very excited to be there. They're going to show cocoa. There's going to be food, cultural events. There's a lot of partners that are collaborating with the city to have games and different things for the kids. So looking forward to seeing all of you there.
Kevin?
I want to thank City Manager, Chief back there, and both Navy captains who ran in the Kiwanis 5K run on Saturday. We made a ton of money. And where the money goes is scholarships at Norco High, JFK, and then we'll be funding programs into Washington, Highland, Riverview, Norco L, and Norco Intermediate. With the sponsorships, we made a ton of money. So I'm really, really delighted to keep those programs going. And thank you. It was fun to see you and your husband there.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Mayor, I have to add that Chief Otterman did place third in
Yes,
his
he
age
did.
category. So
Yes, he did.
he ran, I think, 24 minutes or something in a little change. So
I was kind of shocked. He said he runs once in a while.
he lies. He lies.
I think he fibbed.
And he doesn't throw cow chips but once a year either. Yeah. Okay, so all I have, Ted, I just wanted to compliment you and the Rotary Club for the classic car show. It was great, and being now it's expanded, some good-looking rides there. So you and the Rotary Club did an absolutely great job on it.
We're working out our finances and we're coming up. And as for those who didn't know, part of the proceeds are going to go to the Veterans Memorial. So that's where they're going. So we thank everybody that showed up and donated. So thank you.
So I want to thank you all for coming out. We're going to adjourn back to closed session. So y'all have a good evening.